Oh, okay. Well, I've got that case file with me. I'm in Martin. Somebody just needs to name it. I don't know.
I can't figure out how to do it.
One of them is not going to go through today because they already had time to so.
No, I'm up here. We're going to be talking about class. Maybe had the case file ready, put it in an envelope, and I'll say,
It's the master's of education.
Hello, Bob. This is Ron in Coach 112. I just connected to the conference, and
There she is.
we're not connecting anywhere, are we? Is that the issue here?
Nice to see you. Just have a seat. I'm going to kind of let our 3 law enforcement guys take these seats in this area, but yeah, anywhere.
All right. Okay, that's what we're doing for this one. All right. Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Being mean about
Are they recording it, obviously? No, I'm going to tell them when to start recording. Okay. And so what I'll do is just kind of, I've got my 4 students here. And,
yeah, that is right.
But I'll make sure
You got 3 A's and an M over there.
I know. And this, when I was writing my roster, I was like, gosh, could we throw in some more A's? I have trouble keeping them straight anyway. So I've got April, Amanda, Andrea, and Michelle. Yeah. And then Guy. But Guy's not here. Right.
that may be worth it.
He told me he was going out of town.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
guy has the prior engagement.
Right. He's the one that had, he's the prior.
Prior engagement.
You probably met him a couple years ago, right?
Who? Pass note? Yeah, he's still with Golf. Yes, he is. He retired as a detective captain. Narcotics has been his captain for 100 years. And he retired and then went back to work for 45 days later as a recruiter. So that's.
So he comes
all
here
he's
for
done.
recruiting?
He did come up here last year and did a recruiting trip and absolutely loved it.
What's the student conduct officer? Husband associate.
Oh, so
What's your department?
people she's graduate school.
Says that.
No, I'm right on the water on the coast.
I had a notebook in my bag to bring it to my bag had to bring some so bad. I figured I'd have to work myself. I didn't bring my jacket or nothing. That's all I
You have your class totally online, don't you? Yes.
So they don't have a chance to even get to say
No, this is pretty cool because typically when you're online classes, I teach online as well as college full-time. Mississippi Gulf Coast Foundation did but I'm also involved with them lately. Forensic Science International Association for Education. Have you heard of association with that? That may be.
Yeah, years ago we used to that is great.
Yeah, Ron Smith, I was president of the Mississippi Division for a year, and then in 2003 is when I started. I mean, I still attended, but I finished serving as a things, so I was kind of shoulder for training. But right after Katrina, I changed jobs and became a director of grant for Southern Mass, and stuff. So I just even come here just recently.
I know that. I said,
RCTA? No, I'm not.
RCPI is actually, well, it's
Regional Training Facility in Meridian, and then we have one.
lady
the
down there.
ROCI
And I
Steve
can't
Barnes
some ladies are just one age and another.
is
The real.
Steve and I were together, and he called
I
out.
couldn't take them to the help me now.
Yeah.
Well, we're two seasons.
How have you been doing?
Huh?
How have you been doing?
I'm okay.
I like that color.
How are you?
I'm trying to get.
Yeah. That's
Good little start here.
Well, let's go to Tennessee.
Go make sure I don't sit around and get on this camera.
I think it's not.
Oh, it's
It's
those.
a
They're everywhere.
program, but it's
I taught
something
correction.
else. I can't remember what it's called. Like scope for Tennessee.
What is scope in Tennessee?
There to UT, up in Knoxville,
Yeah, I was right at the hall in the satellite class.
they
and
do a
it was
satellite
awesome.
branch and everything, all kinds of different
Oh, okay.
advanced training.
Oh, my
Nothing's
goodness.
going on. I'm always. But it's, I mean, there's so much going on right now. Yeah, I get by, so I can get caught up,
Created
get where I'm supposed to be.
Donna was
National
still
Having a problem getting up there.
Academy
Yes.
of Scope.
I still have my
Okay, Donna was still
I
my
she got some written in on it, so forget it, I'll get one right under, because I went on Amazon and yeah, that guy.
The drawing, the front of the drawing, well, we did mostly like going out of gallons type stuff, accidents and things like that. But they came down to Mississippi and did them like the auto draw, the CAD stuff. Yeah.
No, I never get the memo
I
at
didn't
work.
get a memo.
At work, like, I'll come in and everybody have a black and white and I'll have a like brown. Like, thanks, guys.
I'm getting some of the best training I've ever had.
And not be
Well, I was a patrolman for 10 years. I do. But I was patrolman for 10 years, man, we were begging to go to class, it cost $25. You know? And now, the college says I can do my training, and I'm affiliated with the sheriff's department.
Couldn't enlarge it, you know, so the readings were so small. I just read a couple of them pages and wrote a question on it.
But my husband called me, I had a big one.
Yeah, well, it's not there, but oh, please.
He says, are you gonna play well, he's about 4 hours and then I'm done.
It's so hard.
Well,
I have been to every store my dad does.
well, what we'll do, guys, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I'm so glad that especially you guys could be here because I know this is an online class, which means we don't meet in person. But this was just a great opportunity that Brian Donovan and I kind of schemed and were riding the coattails of the forum tonight. And I hope that some of you guys can hang around for the forum tonight at 7. But what I want to do, we're going to start recording this. Mr. Techie over here, not yet, okay? But Mr. Techie is going to record, and then what we're going to do is upload the recording to our class so that Guy, who's not here, can see it, and you all will base your writing assignment on the COMPSTAT paradigm off of this. I'll make it something, I'm not going to say simple, but something that will be pretty easy for you to grasp. And we'll talk about our writing requirements later on. What we're doing is this is a police management it's administration of justice class, police management and supervision, and one of their required readings is the COMPSTAT paradigm, and basically it's just a management process used to identify problems and then evaluate the agency's solutions to the problems. And so we thought it would be great if we could take this big investigation that you guys have been involved in and see how the processes were applied. We cannot ask any questions about the investigation itself because it's still ongoing, and so we can't ask, how did you catch them, who's the witness? You can't ask any of that kind of stuff. We want to keep in mind what we're focusing on is the process and the interagency cooperation. Each of them had submitted some questions to me, great questions, and what we'll do is I'm going to let you all introduce yourself, and then we'll get started. I've been told The microphones in here are great, so they pick up everything. If you lean over to whisper and talk bad about somebody, we're going to hear it, okay? So write notes instead of talking. But also cell phones, some of you may have them in the vibrate position. If it's sitting on something hard, we're going to all hear it vibrating, so put it in the silent mode. We're scheduled to have the room till about 5:30. A couple of my students have other obligations, so if we're still going around 5 o'clock, they may get up and ease out, but it doesn't mean that they're not interested. It just means that they have other obligations. So I also have vouchers for dinner over in the cafeteria, wherever that is. So y'all are welcome to hang out and to go eat before the formal do it after we leave here. Okay. So do y'all want to? You want to make it? Y'all all know each other. I'm the outsider here, so.
I think everybody pretty much knows me. Do I need to make introductions?
If you want to, what I would really like, I want my guys to know who you are and what your responsibility is, what agency you work with, all three of you. And Tina, everybody knows Tina.
Do you want me to introduce or do you want to do it yourself?
All right, well, I tell you what we'll do. I want your introductions videoed as well, because I hope, if this works out, I hope to use this in future online classes as well. So why don't y'all go ahead and just grab a seat. And whoops.
You know what I'm doing?
That works.
You can hold up the applause signs.
That's right.
Would you like for us to leave?
No, you're more than, and if you have questions, I would love for you to sit at the table if you want to. Come sit at the table, and if you have questions that you think are pertinent, throw those in. And if we ask something that you can't answer because it's related specifically to the investigation, just tell us you can't answer it, and then we'll move on.
I'll start texting wrong.
So is everybody on silent? I just put mine on silent, and I'm going to kind of keep an eye on the clock too. All right, Mr. Techie, thank you. Are we recording? Okay, good. So we're going to start here, and I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll go around.
Okay, I'm Scott Robbins. I'm the Director of Public Safety here at the University of Tennessee Martin. Been here since 2007, and started my career at the Martin Police Department in 1990 as a dispatcher. And now my responsibilities are the campus police and traffic office at the University of Tennessee Martin.
I'm David Moore. I'm Chief of Police at the City of Martin. I started in 1989 as a dispatcher when I was sitting in these chairs here as a senior UT Martin criminal justice student. Worked my way all the way up through just about every position that there is at the Martin Police Department, and have been in the position of chief since 2003.
I'm John Mayer. I'm with Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. I'm the special agent in charge for West Tennessee Criminal Division, and I won't go into how long I've been working for a few years.
5 years or so, right?
Yeah, I actually graduated from UT here in criminal justice, and then went to TBI and worked narcotics and criminal investigations. And then was over the drug unit, and now I'm over the criminal division since '91. And so we work all the cases from the river to the river.
Well, maybe one of you guys can just kind of throw out an overview of, how did the agencies even identify that they needed to come together and start working?
Okay. I guess since we were the first really involved with the reporting of the instance now, I think what you're referring to is the recent serial rape case that we jointly worked. We had our first case that was reported actually was, and I'll use this term, underreported. There was a portion of the crime reported, but not the entire crime. We felt like from the beginning that there were some more details that we needed to find out about that case. And as we put information out through interagency communications, through the use of TBI's internet system, ultimately we made a link up with Shelby County Sheriff's Department detectives who were working a similar crime, and there's details about that we can't get into exactly how we linked up together, but we did ultimately start working very closely immediately then with the Shelby County Sheriff's Department Detective Division. Actually, there's Sex Crime Division, and almost at that same time that we made that link up with them. As a matter of fact, it was actually the same day we had our second incident, and on that same day, I called John, mayor with TBI Jackson office, which covers our area. I actually called his field agent here, Jeff Jackson, first. And then John and I talked, and Scott, with the university being here, and with the age of our victims and the affiliations and so forth. Scott was actually his folks were involved with us from the very first report. Yeah, in the summertime, particularly, when school's not in, Scott's department, the UTM Police Department, works hand in hand with us. Well, they do all the time, but in particular in the summertime, when it's a little bit slower on campus, they actually came out and helped us do a canvas. Even at the time when we were dealing with an underreported crime, we still did a neighborhood canvas, and his officers were on the ground with us to get detailed information from the very beginning. So almost immediately we started working multi-agency on this particular case.
Y'all feel free to jump in at any time. I don't want to be the only one doing the talking.
I would like to add something. Were the crimes not committed in Shelby County first? I mean, I guess you all might eventually found out where the first one started. Maybe they started in Shelby County, and then they kind of moved up this way.
The first in the series that we're looking at occurred in Shelby County.
They did occur in Shelby. So were they also trying to link up with you all when they heard about what was going on up here?
Again, there's some details about how we made the connection that we can't discuss. But yes, I mean, they were working really hard on theirs. We were working really hard on ours, even before ours was classified as a rape case. Even before that, we became aware of some similarities in MO between the perpetrations of the other parts of the crime that went along with the actual rapes. And that's what really drew our attention to one another.
So as a matter of practice, Tennessee has an internet system that's strictly for law enforcement to put information about crime details into a system that's accessible by any agency.
That's John's system.
Go ahead and tell us, if you don't mind, about the system, because that's part of the information sharing and
well, and I'm going to back up just a little bit. I'm not going to use any names or anything, but at the same time that Martin had their encounter up here the first time, and at the same time that Memphis had some down there, we actually got a call from a director over another division of a state government a long ways from here, because it turns out that his daughter was a victim. And so he ended up contacting our office because it was happening in West Tennessee. And at the same time, Shelby County was hooking up with David. We were hooking up. So it kind of pulled together.
so these are more informal paths of communication that then laid the foundation for the formal paths. Was there a task force established? I'm a little bit ignorant to the details.
Well, we didn't, I don't like the word task force. There's so many task forces out there. It's just basically cooperation between agencies. And one of the things I like to say is that we all kind of pull together and took our badges and put on the tables, forgot who we worked for.
And I've worked as a member of task forces before, but I've never worked as a part of a group that was any more in sync than the group working on this case.
So there
it
were
was
no
a-
turf wars
it was
going
a-
on?
When you throw your badges on the table and forget who you work for, you know, my people that work for me don't work for me at that time. They work as a unit, his people and everybody else. So if the administrators would quit trying to fight up there at the top, who's going to take charge and who's going to be over things, and I don't believe in saying, you know, you're the lead agency. I don't like to just say we're working together, because if anybody ever starts labeling themselves as the lead agency or the lead person, then, you know, things start breaking down because everybody's looking, well, who we're going to take orders from. You know, like task forces, you got task forces and you got departments out there, and they all funnel people there, but the chief and the sheriff and the director and everybody else is wanting to say, I want to control my man, I want to control that. And if you just throw it out there and say, y'all work together, and the chiefs, talking about us, administrators, kind of stay out of it, things flow a lot better. And we can communicate among ourselves, which that's what we did.
I'd just like to ask one, because it's kind of an opinion question, but with Shelby County being so much bigger than Martin and the population being so much bigger and these crimes going on down there, do you not feel that they were looked at probably harder up here because it's such a small town right here on this college campus, versus if the crimes would have just remained in Shelby County, would they have gotten that much attention? I mean, I understand it, but, you know, I feel like they're shorter staffed maybe compared to the population than Martin is.
No, I don't really, I know, of course, I personally know the sheriff down there, and we're from the same place. And I know that was a high priority when these cases started occurring, that, you know, he wanted resources placed down there, whatever it took. So I don't see that being that they were, you know, maybe understaffed or much larger. They've got a good department and they work hard.
Right. The only reason I say is, you know, there's so much crime that does go on in Shelby County and Memphis. You know, I just didn't know it would have gotten as much attention as it does in a little town that nothing really happens.
Now, you know, when you get cases like that, it's going to draw attention, because, you know, rape is not like a burglary out there, a store or a house. It's like a homicide. So it's a victim that suffers the rest of life.
So how did the crime occurring in the university town, how did that affect the operations of campus police until the suspect was caught?
A lot of phone calls. But there's a thing that we operate under that's unique to other law enforcement agencies. It's called the Clery Act. That's a federal law that's enforced by the Department of Education. And any college that receives federal financial aid funds is required to do the little extra steps that normal police departments don't have to. And one of those is timely warnings on crimes that occur. And if we had something that's on campus or the edge of campus, we're required to, in a timely manner. What a timely manner is, that we don't have that definition that just says that. We're required to make notifications to the students to let them know of the threat. What we did during this system, they did not occur even on the edges of campus, but they were occurring in areas that are heavily populated by college students. So what we did is we sent out email notifications to all the students and all the staff of the press releases that the Martin Police Department released, and the TBI did to them. But just to let them, that way we could say that we made our clear notifications. Even though I don't think legally we had to do that, but it was we want to get the word out and warn, because it was a threat there.
So that leads me to another question that's always a big part in a major investigation is communication with the media. Did each agency have its own press release that it would submit to the media, or would the agencies like you three kind of get together and write the press release? And
TBS was the main press.
And actually what we did is PIO in Nashville. But we would give her, David and I, and Shelby County. Of course, Shelby County put out, they had a little bit separate press release because being Shelby County and the citizens down there were, we were up here in rural West Tennessee, but we still communicated with each other what we were going to put in there. And that was between us, and then actually we give it to our PIO to write it up, and then it was sent back, and we critique it and make changes as we saw fit and before it went out. So everybody was on really the same sheet of music. It wasn't, TBI wanted to be in charge of that, or Martin, or Shelby County.
So the PIO, just to make sure everybody knows, Public Information Officer, does Martin have someone designated as PIO?
I designate.
Is that you?
Well, it kind of is situational. And Don Teal is administrative captain, and he acted as a PIO. And at every juncture of this, that I could plug him in just simply to relieve some of the needs to communicate constantly with the press. But on the day when we ended up breaking, I found out I probably got a little bit of flaw in my system. If you call my desk, my desk phone, you can get my voicemail if I'm not at my desk. My voicemail says, "This is David Moore, Martin Police Department. If I'm away from the desk, please leave a message." Or if this is an emergency, my cell phone is. So I found out real quickly that works real well in a rural town. As a police chief, it's not abused. But when the press from a large metropolitan area gets a hold of that, they wear you out. And I can tell you, that became troublesome on the day that this thing was really breaking wide open.
So then
John, I'm sure John was the same way. But yeah, we got to the point where we had to give the media something because it was clear that they were going to go to press, and they were going to go to the airwaves with information, whether it was accurate or not. And if we wanted any control over the accuracy, we had to give them a little bit of something along the way. And so we set up where we would talk to them at this juncture, and then we would schedule another time at this juncture to talk to them again, and just kind of keep them updated as they went. And in the interims, and we would get with John's folks in Nashville. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your PIO is actually a former media person, and has media law, and has the concepts of what the media is looking for, as well as the law enforcement angle. You really need that person. You really need somebody to look over what you're releasing, to check you, because when you've got your mind going 100 different directions, it's easy to either, number one, release something that you don't need to release, or not give the critical information that you need to get back the kind of feedback that you need. Because and really prior to, we had a lot of long conversations about how much to release prior to the big break in the case, because there's a fine line between releasing too much information to give the suspect that you're after too much information about what we know, so to change his patterns, and not giving enough so that we get information back from the community that may lead to the identification of the person. That was a constant conversation, and I hope John didn't get tired of talking to you. We talked, 3, 4, 5 times a day on most days during the course of the heaviest part of this investigation.
What was the time frame from the time, let's say, Martin PD first got involved till the time the case broke?
2 months.
Okay.
Well, let's see, July 24th till August, actually less than that, about a month and a little less than a month and a half.
Did you have to alter any of your officers' typical duties to, during this time frame? And if so, how did you handle that from a manpower perspective?
Yeah, well, it was difficult. And yes, the answer is yes, we did alter greatly our routines. We're a small department. We've got 10,500 population. We have 28 police officers. At any given time, we've got 5 uniformed patrol officers on duty, and during the day, we'll have investigative captain and 2 investigators, and that's if everybody's healthy. And of course, during the time when we got things going on like this, we had to draw from patrol, we had to draw from investigations. Actually, reassign a patrol officer. We have a fantastic young female police officer who we pulled in and assigned to CID for various reasons, but the foremost being she's very sharp. But you can't underestimate the benefit of having a female who can talk to female victims as well. It's just the way that it is, and we pulled her in and had her working hand in hand with our investigators. As a matter of fact, in hindsight, she actually took the telephone call from the individual that gave us the final tip that put us on to Bruce Tuck, and did just lots and lots of things like that. Reassignment of personnel. The week before the case broke, actually 2 days before it broke, we had a departmental meeting. We brought in John's investigators, our investigators, our entire patrol division. We had several members of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, our sheriff's department. By the way, our sheriff, Mike Wilson, assigned a full-time investigator to us to assist with day-to-day activities. He worked with us about 3 weeks inside our department, and much like John, Mike called me and asked if he could help. I said, I need one of your detectives. He said, he's yours. He doesn't even need to come back to the office till this case is solved. So,
oh wow.
so that's, we did a lot of extra patrols in the area Scott was talking about. His officers responded. His officers handled a lot of calls, a lot of routine calls that we frankly didn't have the manpower to answer. And Scott called me one night. He said, right after we had that departmental meeting at THD, and I think they had like 4 or 5 units up here rolling in town that night. Scott called me at home. He said, man, the highway patrols were really visible.
Yeah.
And they were.
Police presence.
Yeah. So a lot of things like that you have to do to make the community feel some comfort. At the same time, you have to answer all the routine calls that come in. And at the same time, you have to focus the investigative division on the case. And so it's really a multi-pronged process there. And it does stretch you thin.
What about money? I mean, a major investigation like this, you're talking overtime, crime lab. I'm not sure how Tennessee does it. I know our crime lab charges for every piece of evidence that's sent in.
TBI doesn't charge for.
Well, we need to send our evidence up to you.
No several states that did that charge for every piece of evidence, but we don't. So our forensic group was, not because they work for us in Tennessee, but probably the elite of the United States. They're well trained and they know what they're doing. We actually, on the last rape case, brought the whole forensic team up. And we're a little bit different than lots of states on our forensic team, because our crime scene unit is, of course, we have agents who are trained, but if we have a homicide or a major case, our crime scene unit is the forensic team. So we bring up 5 people. So you got people in DNA, trace evidence, fingerprints, photography, and all. So and ballistics. So they come in and actually work the scene. And the reason we do that is because they're the people who are going to be examining the evidence, but they also know what they're looking for. So we get, for a while, we were criticized for a while because it may, for a homicide, for instance, you don't remove the body, you leave it where it is, everybody backs out, and actually they start at the front door, the driveway, in the yard, and they work their way through, and it may take 8 hours, it may take 10 hours for them to finally work the whole scene, and then they get to the body, and then they move it out when they've got everything clear. So hopefully we preserve the evidence, we don't have people tromping through it. So in this case, that's what we did.
It's crime scene team, a state dinner, for sure. They're tremendous.
And they're
Smarter.
dedicated.
I think that's a better idea to do it that way. I think a lot of other people might, once they see how good that works, they might implement the same.
Well, it works well, it has for us. So, because they're the eyes looking, and as investigators, we know what we're looking for, but as technology has changed today, there's a whole lot's going on out there that we don't know that they do. We try to read and see things, but they know what's on the cutting edge, what's coming up, what may be used, not be used today, but may be used tomorrow, because like DNA, it's constantly changing. Next month, there's new technology out, and if you don't have that, then you're not using it. You're hurting yourselves.
Does the department have, like, a certain department, if they have a murder, do they have to call you for y'all to do
They
that?
contact us and request this. Of course, we work at a request. The TBI works at the request of the district attorney. But usually, for instance, in West Tennessee, every department knows, every sheriff's department or sheriff or police department knows that they don't have to, they just call and say, hey, we need this, or here's what we need. And the DAs, district attorneys have a standing order. If they need us, they can come straight to us, so I'll get the calls and we'll send people out. So, the only thing we do is usually have agents to respond with the homicide, to that homicide, just to be sure. And another thing that, that we won't do, if we go into a department or to a city or a county, and we get there, and the team arrives, and everybody in the country has been through that crime scene, they'll back up and they'll call and say, hey, here's what we've encountered. And basically we say, load up and go home. And we've had that. We've had it in a small community town where the mayor and everybody, aldermen and everybody else walked through the crime scene prior to them arriving, even after we told them, do not let anybody in there. And they called and said, they'd driven from Nashville all night to get there. And said, we're here, and we pulled up, and it's probably been 40 people through this crime scene. What do you want us to do? So load up and go home.
Is that the only place you have one is in Nashville? Do you have
No,
one?
we have them in Nashville, Memphis, and Knoxville. So they're throughout West Tennessee.
To Knoxville?
Knoxville, every major city, and then they respond from.
Does Memphis usually use you?
No, Memphis does their own.
Yeah, I've been to homicide, like one of them, and it was just,
Right. We are available for any department, but lots of the major cities use their own crime scene team.
So is that like a private, like when they're analyzing it, do they have to send it to a private, or do they have their own lab also?
Memphis, it comes to us.
I can't remember which one of you guys, but several of y'all submitted good questions about communication within the ranks and things like that. Do y'all want to ask something? I feel like I've taken over. Don't be shy, you're all being recorded anyway.
Staying with the homicide and then notifying TBI, there's another unique thing about campus police in the state of Tennessee is that there's a Tennessee state law called the Robert Nottingham Campus Crime Scene Act 2004 that requires us, if we have any death or rape investigations, that we're notified the local police department. Any death investigation, they would be the lead agency, lead investigator. On the rapes, we can be the lead agents, but state law says any campus has to notify them right away in order to take the lead in that investigation. And that's unique. I think Tennessee was the first one to pass that law. I don't know if any other states have passed that since, but it's a unique thing for us.
I'll have to check on that for Mississippi. I don't know.
Which is really never a problem because his investigators work with our investigators every day anyway. So.
Well, it sounds like you all have a uniquely well-oiled machine working together. I know that with my experience in the past, there's been turf battles between which agency is going to take credit for solving, which agency is going to have to pay for what. And it's like you were alluding to a while ago, the administrators would just stay out of the way and let the workers get out there and solve it and work. Typically, there's not much of a problem at what I call the street level, the ones that are out there doing the work. The turf battles come in at administration. So what can make an agency live through the turf battles? I mean, if you have that going on in your experience, how can that be handled if you do come into a situation?
Maybe my feeling would be, and I've been in a few of those, is basically just those administrators say, hey, somebody in the group pick up the phone and say, we're going to meet. And let's talk about what's going on and just air it out. So, let's don't end up with the turf battles. Let's don't, only people are going to win is the criminal out there. We're not going to win. We're going to lose, and it's going to take that much longer to make the case. And so, and I don't know. I mean, I'm speaking from my side, and David and I'm speaking from their side, but I think probably my experience with West Tennessee, we're probably a unique animal, if you want to say that. We have an Investigators Association in West Tennessee where all the investigators meet once a month and discuss cases. There's no, other parts of the state don't have that. And this has been going on for 35 years. Departments communicate, and even the federal agencies. We work hand in hand with, we'll have some over there tonight, forum. But I mean, me and the supervisor of the FBI, we communicate. Well, we see each other 2 or 3 times a week, but we talk on the phone even in between. Secret Service is the same way. I mean, it's just like the turf battles are not as great.
Well, I think in more rural areas, because I know in one of my best friends lives in Panola County in Tennessee. I mean in Mississippi, and the Highway Patrol and the local law enforcement agencies there have a fairly close working relationship, especially the investigators, because they have smaller agencies like Charleston that has a homicide. They just don't have the qualified investigators with enough experience to successfully handle the homicide investigation. So Highway Patrol steps in and they work together. Whereas on the coast, where you have larger cities, there's the working relationship between the Highway Patrol and the investigators is not as cohesive, to say the least. There was one other thing that had gone through my mind, and now I can't remember what it was. So, go ahead.
This is for Mr. Robbins, I think. I know in this small town that caused a big panic. What was going on? What date was he exactly? What date did y'all apprehend him?
August 4th was the day.
That's what I was thinking. I was making sure it was before school started back.
It was
September.
Yeah, it was Wednesday. I can tell you what time, 5:15 in the afternoon.
What I was wanting to know about campuses, are you all concerned about how the students, especially the females who take night classes, how,
Sure.
you know, how they were gonna, I mean, how were y'all gonna step up security for them had he not been captured? What were you all gonna do?
We have 12 full-time officers. That's all we have to cover 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So, we also have a lot of student workers, in dorm security, dorm desk workers. We have an eyes and ears program, which are student workers that go out with the radio and a vest, and all they do is walk around the tops of the buildings and look down on parking lots and radio if they see something suspicious.
Were y'all concerned with the dorms?
Oh,
Was that a
absolutely.
big concern?
We log down all the dorms. Usually we keep them open till midnight.
Doesn't
We
say
can make
deterrent.
entry into any door, so we had made where everybody, 24 hours a day, had to go through the main door to get in.
Are there cameras where they go in and out of the
There's
dorms?
cameras in the dorms, yes, except for, every time we had that first week classes, we meet with the freshmen. We gave them every year we give them the same speech about safety and laws. It had a little more emphasis and more importance this year. Anytime we had the sororities meeting, we met with them. There was a couple of other groups, I can't remember right now which ones they were with. We would meet with them also and just give them the security briefing about being aware of their surroundings and what kind of personal protection devices you can't have on campus and which ones you can. When you should report to us about lights on campus, you see them now, or stuff like that. The media coverage that came from me was like that. It was just what we were doing for the students. We did increase. We changed our patrol around to make an increase in the nights. We increased our student workers at night during that time.
Were you flooded with maybe phone calls or communication from
Yes.
certain parents?
Yes.
Is that
I had
students?
several from students. I don't know whether it was more from students or parents, but from the time school started until they made the arrest, it was a daily.
Did you have to have any or implement any kind of specialized training for whoever answers the phone for your security officer to deal with the parents?
The last day I did because we were getting inundated with, and I didn't until then, but we had the media inquiries were coming in, and the stuff that shouldn't have been gotten out was getting out, and finally had to put the kibosh on all stuff. But what we're trying to do is calm them back down that day because there's a lot of rumors going around. That was the day I had to give instructions.
When you mentioned a while ago about your personal cell phone number now, all the media has it. Did you all take time during the course of the investigation to maybe take a step back on a regular basis and evaluate? This is what we've done. This is what's been working. This hasn't been working now.
Every day.
Every day. Was there a certain time that you all got together?
Typically at 9 o'clock in the morning
Mhm.
in my office, we would have a briefing.
Mhm.
And we got to the point, and John, we would email back and forth, but I would send John a copy of, we just took a simple Excel spreadsheet and had everybody that was working leads or different facets of surveillance or whatever it happened to be. And we had their name and the day, and then what the assignments were, and then we would meet in the office the next morning and just to keep everybody on track and kind of along with your COMPSTAT ideas that you've been studying. This is kind of the poor man's COMPSTAT. It was
Right,
just a simple spreadsheet
COMPSTAT report
with
every day.
with tasks and just to keep everybody on track and on task. And for us as administrators to look at it and say, okay, here's the big picture. What's not here, and what needs to be added, and do we need more people? So it worked real well.
Do you feel like? Go ahead.
Well, I don't really know. I mean, you said you couldn't get into how y'all connected. I know, like in serial homicides, they'll put it on a computer or whatever, and then you can look and see, okay, well, that MO, that matches.
Yes.
Do you have any other state, since Memphis is so close to Mississippi? I mean, is it possible that first could have went over?
It's been looked into. Yes, very much so. And
Do they do that? Do they do rates the same way?
yes, by cap.
Yeah, actually, VICAP does it, but what we did in this case is we actually took and sent this information out nationwide.
Through NCIC
Through
maybe?
NCIC, and we did that several times during the investigation and updated the information we were sending out. If you have other similar cases, please notify us. And we were getting calls from other states. And, you know, that didn't tie it to ours, but they had some similar things, and, you know, we were reaching out, and at least that information, we were receiving it.
We chased some more threats.
We chased lots of them.
We would, one of the things we did also, and even we talked before this started about ROCIC, Regional Organized Crime Information Center. We reached out to them. They're actually, Tennessee's got a really good fusion center where you've got TBI has a seat, FBI has a seat. Actually, you guys probably got several seats. You had analysts that work there and ROCIC. We actually brought one of their analysts in and put them up in a hotel for I think 3 days, and she did nothing but sit in a little cubicle there at our police department, and we fed her data for 3 solid days. And I'm not saying that necessarily was key, but it was key to us to try everything that we possibly could analytically to try to determine leads and so forth.
I don't know if y'all can answer. Did y'all use a profiler? Is that what she done? She's profiled the type of person?
That's not what she did.
She
We
just analyzed
did. We
what's
did
going on.
talk to a profile on several occasions.
Does the TBI have one? Or just
No,
FBI?
we don't have a profile. We rely on the FBI.
Do you have to pay for those services?
Provide them information at the end. We promised to provide this individual with our case file at the end of the adjudication process. So maybe he can take that and help another agency.
Right.
I have a question for Chief Moore. Before you caught the suspect, you knew that the Sorbet Festival was coming up.
Yes.
Did you have a plan in place for the Sorbet Festival in case this person wasn't caught?
Yes. You recall that so we had a departmental meeting a couple days before. That was in preparation for that actual event. And my plan at that point was to lean very heavily on the Tennessee Highway Patrol to give us a patrol presence for the action festival itself, so that we could keep our folks in the field and keep the focused patrols going in the college student housing areas and keep the investigation. And we would have been hands off in the Sorbet Festival. Good question. That was a sleepless night or two there.
I figured it was.
Do y'all have any questions? I've kind of jumped around on what I wanted covered, but I think you all have done a good job. You handled communication with the media, communication. It seems to me that probably the biggest mode of communication you have between yourselves is just a cell phone. Pick it up and call. Informal communication, not so much the formal protocol. We've talked about manpower issues, the databases, interagency cooperation. Can y'all think of anything else? Do you see how this investigation, how they applied the same basic principles of COMPSTAT, if you've had a chance to read that particular chapter yet?
The thing I wonder is like you said, I mean, it's unique how they all work together, because I don't feel like it's probably like that in a lot of other agencies. When you go to work a case like that, I don't feel like it's probably as nice as you all play or work, compared to what a lot of other agencies do.
Well, hopefully you can draw from your successes, and people can use successes as models for other places. And John didn't talk about it, but he provided us a tip line that is designed to funnel and focus tip information that's called in and be able to extract out information analytically from it. It's web-based. We actually implemented it and put it on our website. And beyond this investigation, we're going to use that. But he's got the guy that wrote that program was with the Navy, I believe. It's their product, and he wants to use the successes in this investigation to kind of, not that came in kind of on the tail end of our investigation on this, so we didn't get it out, but I feel like it would have been integral if we continued to build the leads book that we had going, because it was getting to the point of an unmanageable amount of tip information that we were being daily having to follow up on, and something like that's crucial, and those are the kind of things you hope you pluck out and say, hey, this made a big difference, or this potentially could make a big difference down the road if you've got another one, or if another jurisdiction has the same thing. So there's a lot of lessons learned, and there's a lot of success stories too, and we'll share those.
What would you say was the biggest lesson learned for Martin Police Department in this? If God forbid, something like this were to happen again, what was the biggest lesson you learned out of this?
You know, every day there was something, and I don't think we had any major uh-ohs, but my biggest fear was that we would look back at the end and see something glaring, that there was something obvious that we should have picked up on. I don't have that, but I mean, it's kind of like if you got a coach that runs a successful play, and even if it ends up in a touchdown, he's going to go back and review the film, and he might see something that could have been done a little better. You know, I think avoiding tunnel vision is something John and I talked about a whole lot during the course of the investigation, and I think that's you're going to have it, because if you get onto a hot trail on something that doesn't turn out to be, and later on you're gonna come back and say, man, I wish I hadn't focused so much energy on that, because that wasn't right. Well, if it had been right, then you wouldn't have that you wouldn't have that second guess. But I think just always keeping your options open. Always until the ink's dry on the warrants, you're not sure, and managing information, I think, is key too. I think we did overall a pretty good job of that. I think there was one or two lessons to be learned on the tail end of this thing about managing information.
What about for you, for the university police?
One thing that came out of this, another positive thing, one thing that did is that people got more security conscious. So a lot of good ideas were coming from faculty and students about what they could do to be safer. And that's one of the things we communicated with at the end was, keep putting these into practice, because we were getting calls from the schools to be when those shorties meeting and they were leaving one of the departments and have an officer in the department. We still want to do that because we have one of the lowest crime rates for campus in the state of Tennessee. Martin has probably one of the lowest crime rates in the town of 10,000 in the state of Tennessee, but it happened here. So you can't say that nothing happens here. We hope it never happens again, but it could. And just want to impress on our officers too that it can happen here. You always have to be on your toes. Put those practices that we were doing and keep those up, even in the morning days. We had a lot of morning days.
Right.
For police officers.
Right. What about from your perspective, lessons learned from this?
Well, I kind of agree with David. Make sure that we don't have tunnel vision. Make sure that we have our personnel realize that because we've all been there, and you really look and you think this is it, and you waste a lot of time. You have to keep other ideas coming in and focus where you're going. It's easy for us, just as humans,
Right.
never really like to have tunnel vision, and I think that's a key point. Another thing I think is we talked about the media too, and law enforcement agencies especially. That relationship you have with media is very important. You've got lots of departments that won't have anything to do with media. But, you know, philosophy we've always had and we use is that we have key people in the media that we talk to. I mean, I talk to some every day. I mean, it's the same people every morning. You know, just, you know, they'll say, what's going on? It's like I told David, I need to find out some information about something else. And I called, everybody was busy and everything else, so I called over me and I said, tell me what kind of story y'all have the other day. I need to know this. Did y'all do this or do that? Well, yeah. So I need to know what's going on. You know, and so that's the kind of communication we have. But it's, you know, it's able to have that media or those people that you can trust, because of lots of the media, each individual person or agency builds those relationships. The media has to build that relationship also. Don't bring somebody in and say, hey, I'm so-and-so with whatever television station, I want to do this. And if you mess over that agency, it basically just, agency cuts them out.
Right.
You know, and they don't get anything. Your other ones are getting it, and they're getting the full story, and they won't know why. Then be able to communicate with them and say, here's the reason we didn't give you the story. Here's the reason. Don't complain because you didn't get it. But, you know, you messed over us before. I mean, this is not, you know, sell newspapers. This is not the ratings on television, on who's going to have the best news station. You know, we've got somebody's life on the line, and it's to solve that case. So be a part of the solution, not part of the problem. And in this case, we had wonderful media. We had some media that wasn't wonderful, that was creating problems and actually trying to create animosity between the agencies. Right. And I mean, it was like, I mean, and we would have to communicate with David and I had to communicate, and Memphis would have to communicate and make the full circle saying, you know, somebody said, so-and-so TBI,
right,
but their PIO said this, you know, and I'd pick up the phone and immediately call and say, hey, what did you just tell so-and-so? Well, I can tell you what I just told so-and-so, which was all wrong. But what they did, they took information that wasn't verified, attributed it to somebody else, and that happens in every case.
right.
But now that station will have a hard time getting information from anybody. It will hurt. And then if they want to know why, you know, we will sit down and we'll tell them why. You know, you really hurt us. I mean, so, and the other ones, I mean, we've got stations that we can call and just like on this case, say, hey, so-and-so is reporting this, you know, we'd like to report it, but we don't want to hurt the investigation.
Right.
What do you want us to do?
And that's integrity. And there are some media outlets out there that have integrity. And we saw firsthand, because they held up on some information that others were putting out there.
They didn't have to.
They didn't have to.
Well, I think too it was important that it was nipped in the bud rather quickly, as opposed to just letting it go and go and go, because then that can create so much more chaos surrounding the investigation. So it was good that you all were able to pick up the phone and call and feel comfortable and quash the chaos that's going on out there with it.
And we as administrators have to be careful about that, you know, just like in that instance, it turned out on one of these, it was our PIO that was being, you know, targeted and said that here's what she said. And I mean, of course, we had to be careful not to jump to conclusions, you know.
Right.
You know, I immediately picked up the phone and called her and I said, here's what's being reported. What did you say? And she said, I didn't say that. And so what she was able to do, because she's been a media person, she was able to pick up the phone to that station and to that person and say, you're reporting it. I said this. I didn't say that. You know, you need to get it straight.
And they actually took it off with a little
Yeah.
meter that went across the bottom of the screen.
So you're in mid-sentence reading it and then boom, delete.
Well, and that's what you have to do. You have to nip those in the bud because, that will hurt the investigation.
Right.
Because that right there creates the animosity and friction and turf battles between departments.
Mhm.
Because, I'm calling David and saying, don't you release this. I'm not gonna say, David, don't you.
Right, but it would be best if you
And then
did.
turn around and then somebody said, well, TBI just released it.
Right.
And so what happens, not only in the turf battles between the administrators, but the turf battles between the people that are actually doing the work on the street, the working people, the investigators. Then it became the turf battle between them because they think we're in a turf battle.
Right.
And so, you just have to be careful and take your feelings and kind of set them aside and realize that during these cases, you're going to have accusations and things that are not true. So don't just take it and say, hey, that's gospel. I know you did this. I don't appreciate it. Because all that's going to do is blow up. So.
And it helps having people that have been through the fires for years to kind of lean on during those things too. And the other part of that too, and then when you're talking about the tunnel vision thing, even more so for me than the time factor, because you got to be spending that 8, 10, 12, 15 hours a day on the investigation anyway. So, you're active. As long as you're active with me, you're not going to be in trouble if you're not doing anything. It's when there's going to be a problem. The thing is, when you chase those rabbits, it turn out to be not the one you're after. It diminishes your personnel's enthusiasm.
Right.
And you can only get hit in the chin so many times before you start kind of dodging the punches a little bit. And so keeping morale up with your guys in a marathon instead of a sprint, and making sure everybody remembers it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's one of the key things that we have to do too. And it worked out well.
And the other thing that you have too, departments, it's like here, campus police, department, you got other things that are working. We had other things working for TBI, we had homicides, we had all this other going at the same time that this is going. So, we're sitting there juggling everything because we got this crew working here and
Trying to see which direction senior crime center takes.
yeah,
Right.
And so, in the same way with police departments, they have, they're not a major case like a rape case or a homicide, but you still have other ones, and they are important because somebody's life is affected. So, the chief has to make sure that those leads in that case are being followed too, because that case is just important for that victim, that person, as the rape case is,
Right.
or a homicide case.
What
Right.
town was he apprehended in? I know you all went to his house for Warren. Where is it, Milan?
Please.
Lee?
Did y'all suspect him before Wednesday?
You know what? We won't get into that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll come back in a year when you guys are still in the program.
We're ready to know.
Well, does anybody have any other questions? It's right at 5 o'clock, and I know a couple of you guys somebody had a class to go to, and you probably have mommy duty. Yeah. Well, I want to thank each of you for taking the time to come here and meet with us, and I'll kind of share some of their feedback with you once they get their thoughts together, and we may change up one of our discussion boards and make it a discussion about this instead of maybe something from the text, and follow up on this a little bit more with class.
You've got one of your class members that's not here tonight that don't take out greatly in this case. this guy prior?
He was, when he sent me the email and said he wasn't going to be able to be here, I said, well, I understand that you have some intimate knowledge with the case, and so you can take the process and apply it to the book that we're reading anyway. But he'll be thrilled to watch us on TV. We should all. I told him that we were going to talk bad about him while he was
Well,
gone.
take it back.
Take it back. So, well, thank you. If you want to hit the stop button. All right, good. Well, I have vouchers for dinner. Anybody want to go do dinner? Now, y'all are staying on campus, or are you going?
Quite honestly, we've got 2 hours before the next
You can go
event.
get some more.
I'm leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning for Denver, so I'm gonna go get some stuff done.
Go pack. That's right.
I'll meet you guys back at 7 o'clock.
7?
So.
Okay.
You know where we are at Watkins. You want dinner?
Sure, I'll go.
Would you like dinner?
I'll go.
Okay.
Everybody else gonna turn it down, David. Before you got here, he said you wouldn't eat with you.
Is that what he said?
I don't know what the deal was.
There's some of that misinformation.
You know what, I was gonna pipe up and say how easy it is to work with all of you all, but I guess I'll have to take that back. Are y'all gonna go, anybody?
Yeah, I'll see y'all.
No?
Y'all pretty short.
Okay.
So that's a myth then that if you offer food, everybody will be there, right? It works
See,
for
and they
me.
didn't even ask
That's
where you
the
were
only
eating.
reason
That
I
was
said
the
that.
thing.
Well, I told them it was vouchers from the
Okay.
cafeteria, which I've never eaten there. I don't know.
See, that's what it was. I thought it was like we were going to bring dinner in, but when you said cafeteria. No, really, they do have good. They have good. That's what I said. I
I've
just
been
have
happy
good
for the
food.
pizza delivery.
Oh no, I hate pizza. My kids and my husband eat pizza, so I'm sleeping.
Well, see, you can order pizza tonight, then go to dinner with us. Thank you.
No problem.
Did you get the tape?
No, I was supposed to give that to you. Did you give me a tape now?
We,
And then-
what we did was we actually digitally recorded it and recorded on VHS just in case
Right.
it didn't work.
Right.
I've been told that they're going to, well, they'll go through the digital recording and they'll cut off the ends of it because it actually started
Okay.
recording as soon as I turn off the equipment. If that's the
Okay.
one they want to give you, it'll be the best quality.
Okay.
If for some weird reason, which we've gotten some new equipment lately, if for some weird reason that didn't work, we've got this tape.
Then you have that for the backup. Okay, so
Yeah.
you just need to keep possession of that then?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it here in the room, and the extended campus office will pick it up tomorrow
Okay.
morning.
Dr. Brian Donovan
Mhm.
is my counterpart here, so if a name needs to be put on it,
Okay.
then Donovan
Donovan.
would be good.
Let's spell that.
DonavanT.
See, all right.
All right,